books was in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They here.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Haret Shun Calfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Haret Shun Calfunny, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.
ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into Science with Sean. I am streaming on both the Mossy Warrior Clan and Science with Sean. Doing this right now briefly to kind of let everybody know that we are going to be on the Science with Sean channel. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend, of course. If you are not watching a live stream and you'll be catching a replay of the show, please, again, like the show and share the show. And we're going to get into it in just a moment. I am actually sharing the show right now. So, like the show, share the show. And I promise you, this is going to be it's going to be a lot of information. I condensed some of it just because I know the attention span of a lot of people. And I didn't want to make it too complicated. Some straight to the points and things of that nature. But this is a topic that has been discussed a lot. So if you're watching on the Mossy Warrior Clan, as of right now, I am going to drop the link to the stream where you can continue to pick up where we are. So I don't want anybody to think that you're going to be able to view it on the Mossy. I'm just actually doing a little introduction while we're live. So hopefully everybody got the notification and we can get the family in the building. And we can kind of build on that. But yeah, we're going to deal with the origins of Sars Cov 2. Yep. We've been hearing a lot in the news. We've been hearing a lot on social media. So we need to see whatever, what's the dealio, right? We need to find out what's going on, what the science is, and not what people assume. So let me get you this link. For those of you that are watching on the Mossy Warrior Clan, I am going to end the stream. Here is the link. I just dropped it in the Mossy Warrior Clan chat. If you click on that link right there, you will be able to join us in a discussion on Science with Sean. So again, peace to Donnie. Zane was good. Keenan. EY Pele movement, peace. Too Smooth, peace. Mark, what up? Ali, Duael, peace. Robert Rand was good. Charles was good, brother. Yeah, I am going to end it. So if you are on the Mossy, there's a few people that's on the Mossy Warrior Clan channel. I'm going to drop the link to where we can pick up at room. I did it again. It's right there. And I am going to end it. So I'm going to say Shimon Hotep on the Mossy Warrior Clan side. And, you know, we're going to pick up on the Science with Sean side. So the link again is in the chat. And just hit that little link, join us, and peace to everybody. All right, so there was people still showing up on the Massa Warrior side. So you know, I had to end the stream. I think I might have gave people the wrong link. Should be the right one. Yep, there you go. Sure, we already got 1 thumbs down. Ain't even went live. Yeah, we got it. That's good. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing, man? Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. Straight. All right, so bear with me one moment because somebody was requesting something from me. So I'm just trying to get that, send that out to them. I know y'all still caught up in the circulation of ignorance that goes on over there on Garfield channel. But I don't want to repeat it, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get started because I don't want to hold nobody up, and people just come in when they come in and just deal with it from that point. So I really ain't caring about how many people actually are watching anyway. It ain't all be no 100,000 people. So what up? All right, I am. Let me know when y'all can see my screen. Robert Rand said he can't take it. Well, he be having the wrong people on there, so it makes it difficult to take it. You really can't get into anything like that when you're dealing with like people like Thunder's uneducated, so you can't take him serious. He doesn't have an argument formed. He's just Googling within the argument, and it's causing people to, you know, deal with that. But yeah, I don't expect people to. Most of the people that are over there right now, they ain't feeling this discussion anyway. All right, so yeah, man, let's get it going. Let's get it cracking. Okay, so you should see my screen. It should be cool. Let's go. So again, today we're going to talk about the Origins of Sars Cov-2 by me, of course. Hope y'all like that nice leather background. Nah, just playing. But again, you know, like the show, share the show. And let's continue to grow. All right, so copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. I am going to let you hear a couple of things from the horse's mouth so that it doesn't look like I'm just putting words out there. This is an evidence-based presentation. This lecture will be geared toward that. So hopefully everyone finds something in this build that they can learn from. All right, so the outline will look as is. You're looking at the introduction, research questions, hypothesis, definition, conclusion, and sources. All right, so the introduction. A lot has been made about the origins of the latest coronavirus, which caused the pandemic, which has led to millions of deaths, troubling economies around the world, and much more. In this lecture, we will attempt to answer a few questions based on evidence to help reduce the conspiracy claims made about the origin of the virus. So here's our research question. Where did this lab leak claim come from? I think that's important. Was the virus created in a lab? It's another important question. And what evidence exists for the origins of SARS CoV-2? All three are very important questions. I know a lot of people could think of more, but those are some important questions. Give me a second. Let me get in here, and I want to full screen it and get back to the presentation. All right, there we go. So I think everybody should be able to see it a little bit more clearly. And yeah, there you go. All right, so let's go. All right, my hypothesis. Since the emergence of the novel virus SARS-CoV-2 late December 2019, people have assumed the origins of this virus stems from a lab in Wuhan, China, or potentially a wet market also in Wuhan. I believe this claim started because of where the virus emerged from without any particular data. To add, the United States president at the time, Trump, was known for calling the virus a Chinese virus. I believe the lab leak theory is orchestrated from a news analyst hinging his theory on what supposedly was a White House intelligence statement that existed toward the end of Trump's presidency. I also think people who assume this virus was created in the lab due to misrepresentation of how gain of function works, which could be another reason the lab leak theory continues to resurface. So let's check out a couple of definitions that we'll have here. We want to understand, firstly, what is the coronavirus? Coronavirus is a family of viruses that normally only affect animals. Some can also be transmitted from animals to people, causing respiratory problems that generally have mild symptoms. Several coronaviruses cause respiratory infections that range from the common cold to more serious illnesses, including MERS, identified in 2012, and severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, which appeared for the first and only time in 2002. SARS-CoV-2 is a new type of coronavirus that can affect people. It was the first detected in 2019 in Wuhan, in a city called Hubei province in China. In 80% of the cases, it produces only mild respiratory symptoms. The virus is known as coronavirus SARS-CoV-2, and the disease that it causes is COVID-19. Gain of function. Gain of function is a mutation that confers new or enhanced activity of a protein. Loss of function mutation, which are more common, result in reduce of abolished protein. So here we go. The origin of SARS-CoV-2. In a publication written a year ago, June 2020 to be exact, by Milton Liedenberg, who's a senior research associate at the Center of International Security Studies at the University of Maryland, suggested that there was two possible lab leak origins. The circumstantial evidence for a lab escape. By way of introduction, there are two virology institutes in Wuhan to consider, not one. The Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Both have conducted large projects on the novel bat viruses and maintain large research collections of novel bat viruses. And at least the WIV, which is the Wuhan Virology Institute, possess the virus that is the most closely, peep this, closely related known virus in the world to the outbreak virus, bat virus RATG13. This virus was isolated in 2013 and had its genome published in January 23, 2020. 7 more years of bat coronavirus collections followed the 2013 RATG13 isolation. That's directly from Littenberg. Let's continue from Littenberg. One component of the novel bat virus projected at the Wuhan Institute of Virology involved infection of laboratory animals with bat viruses. Therefore, the possibility of lab accident includes scenarios with the direct transmission of a bat virus to a lab worker, scenarios with transmissions of bat viruses to a laboratory animal and then to a lab worker, and scenarios involving improper disposal of laboratory animals or laboratory waste. One component of the novel bat virus project at Wuhan Institute of Virology involved infection of laboratory animals with bat viruses. Therefore, the possibility of a lab accident includes scenarios with direct transmission of a bat virus to a lab worker, scenarios with transmission of a bat virus to a laboratory animal and then to a lab worker, and scenarios involving improper disposal of a laboratory animals of laboratory waste. He would continue his argument using an 8-point claim and a snippet of an article published in the scientific journal that led to a lot of noise being made continuously by the media. The scientific journal published in BioRx IV, it says it is important to note that no intermediary host has yet been identified for SARS-CoV-2 virus. The author also noted that no animal sampling prior to the shutdown and sanitation of the Wuhan fish market was done. The name of the article was SARS-CoV-2 is well adapted for humans. What does this mean for reemergence? The link to the actual article can be identified, but I did not actually add the inclusion of this particular article as it begins his argument. But this is the basis of his argument. An abstract that he read, I don't know if he actually read the full text, but this was one of the points in his initial argument, which he began to handle his business and so forth. All right, so let's move on. This article was immediately debunked by virologists in numerous places. One notable virologist, Vincent Racconelli, did an hour-and-a-half show on his YouTube channel debunking the lab leak claim. And not even a few weeks later, the story had faded away. Prior to that, the White House Intelligence Committee on its website published a claim in support of a lab leak theory. One reason is Trump professed that he did not see the virus coming, and it seemed to sneak up on everyone. In December 2020, a paper published by 3 intelligence professors challenging Trump laid out an argument that attacked the then president. It's titled Spies and the Virus, the COVID-19 Pandemic and Intelligence Communications in the United States. And it attacks the root of the intelligence issues that transpired the year the pandemic changed our lives. So first, I think we're going to deal with Vincent Racconelli, and then we will get into part 2 of this Spies and the Virus article.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vincent Racconello, and I want to address a document that was posted to Zenodo some time ago called Unusual Features of the SARS-CoV-2 Genome, Suggesting Sophisticated Laboratory Modification Rather than Natural Evolution and Delineation of its Probable Synthetic Root. This is a 26-page document. It has not been peer-reviewed. It has not been subject to official scrutiny by virologists and other scientists. The authors are from the Rule of Law Society and the Rule of Law Foundation in New York. And this document has been widely criticized by scientists everywhere. It suggests a laboratory origin of SARS-CoV-2, which of course isn't correct. And it looks very imposing. The authors have PhDs. One has an MD and a PhD. There are lots of charts and data. However, the scenario for the laboratory origin of SARS-CoV-2 is completely implausible, as stated in this document. We recently discussed this on TWIV, This Week in Virology, and I just want to play the excerpt of that episode in which we discuss some details about this document. I would suggest the manuscript, The Proximal Origins of SARS-CoV-2. All right, now finally, the last document that we have here. Many
Document's
listeners.
a good word.
A document, that's what it is. A document was sent to me by a number of people yesterday, and many listeners got at least 20 different emails saying you need to address this. And I really find it unfortunate that we have to, because it's just going to take time that we could do more productively with something else, but we have to do it.
Plus, it gives it air, which we prefer not to do, but it's getting air already.
Yeah,
so
and people want to know, because as many people say, this looks okay to me. What do you think? I'm not a scientist. You know, it's a 26-page document with lots of words and figures and data, supposedly, and it kind of looks authoritative. But as you...
Oh, it looks very authoritative. We got diagrams, we got models of the spike protein, we got nucleic acid sequence, we got mutations, got the whole shebang.
We got a reference section, although when you go to look at it, about 50% of the things or more are just preprints or a website. Or
lots of
like
websites.
Yeah. So it is a 26-page document which is called Unusual Features of the SARS-CoV-2 Genome Suggesting Sophisticated Laboratory Modification Rather than Natural Evolution and Delineation of its Probable Synthetic Root. And the authors are Yan, Kang, Guan, and Hu, and they are from the Rule of Law Society and Rule of Law Foundation, New York, USA. And there's an email there that you could email the authors from. And, you know, just reading the title, I mean, this is not a title of an article that would ever appear in a journal. And as the abstract and the introduction is just written in a way that just says everything else is nonsense, and what we're going to tell you is really what happened. And I want to go through it in a little bit of detail, but as we'll tell you, the data are not at all conclusive. It's really nothing different from what we talked about months ago, and in which has been debunked in published articles and so forth. And that's why it's unfortunate that we have to go through this. But a kind of an interesting thing where you can just put out what's apparently a definitive looking document. And some of these authors are apparently scientists. I think the first author was a former coronavirus person. I don't know what this society or law foundation is.
Actually, I have some information on that, but we can come back to that.
So, all right. So people have said to me, please give it fair consideration. So we'll give it a fair consideration. All right. So basically the idea here is that this virus was engineered in a laboratory, and they purport to give evidence for that. And I will just say up front, there's no evidence for it whatsoever. There's more evidence that this came from nature. We've talked about this multiple times on TWIV. There's really good evidence. What they have here are accusations that are not founded in any way. And we will go through and we'll talk about it. And let me just a few ideas from the abstract and the introduction. They say, despite its tremendous impact, the origin of SARS-CoV-2 has remained mysterious and controversial. No, it's not mysterious and controversial. We have wonderful evidence, genomic evidence, that it came from a bat isolate, and that is a recombinant of many different viruses, and the lineage tracks back decades. We did a paper not too long ago showing that. It's very clear. So this is a way of using words to kind of start to, get in between your sensibility and say, oh, maybe they're right. The natural origin theory, although widely accepted, lacks substantial support. I don't know. Every virologist I know is okay with it. I don't know who you're talking about here.
That statement is not true.
Right.
The alternative theory that the virus may have come from a lab is censored on peer-reviewed scientific journals. No, it is not censored. It is rejected because all the manuscripts don't have any support for it. Isn't that a horrible way to say
peer review is?
Censored? I mean, now this, and to a person who's not familiar with the scientific process, they would say, "Oh my God, they're being censored? Really?" No, it's just
Okay.
peer review.
In my typical way, I'm going to be pedantic about the writing. I wanted to point out earlier that the title would be better with a comma after the word evolution because it's two independent clauses. And here, the first sentence about the natural origin theory, and the alternative theory is censored. They're not even parallel. Yeah.
There are lots of writing issues here.
It's a problem. But they're trying to get to people who don't know about the science and use these words, and then people are like, yeah, I guess that could be right. They say the virus has biological characteristics that are inconsistent with a naturally occurring zoonotic virus, and they go through it, and we'll talk about that. But that's not true. It has very consistent properties, and
Now, I'm not going to play the whole video, but to the point, I just wanted to let people know that the video exists, that they actually talk about the source, and they go through and refute the claims made in the initial article that was published in June. As you can see, this is 12 Talk 664. This video is about a year old. Let's move on. So, Spies in the Virus article that I had mentioned with the second point of everything that I talked about initially states that this paper introduces a crucial parameter to the novel coronavirus response in the United States by shedding light on the earlier warning role of intelligence agencies. It argues that the intelligence components of the federal government's biological defense program offered actionable forewarnings about an impending pandemic in the years leading to the COVID-19 outbreak. Yet, almost from the opening stages of the pandemic, senior U.S. governor officials, including President Donald Trump, have repeatedly claimed that the virus came out of nowhere and that nobody saw it coming. However, rather than simply placing the blame on the White House for discounting these warnings, we advanced a conceptual analysis of what many in the U.S. intelligence community view as a critical breakdown in strategic communication between intelligence professionals and key government decision makers. This study agrees with those who suggest that the White House disregarded its own pandemic experts. However, it also posits that the means of strategic communication employed by intelligence experts to alert the White House to the threat were unproductive. These alerts were communicated largely through the president's daily brief, an archaic and ineffectual method of communication that is not designed to facilitate the kind of laser-focused, unequivocal exchange of information needed when potentially catastrophic threats confront the world. This study suggests that the intelligence community must implement more direct, immediate, and conclusive methods of communicating intelligence to decision makers and should seriously consider creating a new line of products that address existential challenges to national security. Lastly, they contended it is time to reevaluate existing rules that prevent intelligence analysts from offering advice on policy. Although we agree that intelligence professionals should refrain from providing policy advice on routine matters, we question the value of preventing these highly knowledgeable experts from communicating strategic policy advice to decision makers when it comes to the threats of catastrophic nature, which may prove potential existential for the U.S., its allies, and the world. Now, to be honest, we all bear witness to the pandemic mishandling. Right. And that last article is dealing with the pandemic mishandling and misinformation that existed by the previous administration. So, however, the vocal point of the argument is the origins of the novel virus. It's 2021, the 5th of May, and the media recycles the lab leak theory again, this time pushed by Nicholas Wade, who is a science writer, editor, and author who has worked on the staff of Nature Science and for many years, the New York Times. He rehashes Littenberg's work from the previous year only because some people in the non-scientific community have gotten restless with China and whose independent study was finally released, but it was the U.S. intelligence team report of 3 researchers had contracted the virus that energized the lab leak theory once more. So to break it down to you, the reason that we're here again is that the U.S. Intelligence Committee comes out and makes a statement regarding 3 researchers contracting the virus and getting sick and have to be hospitalized. Also, and I'm gonna mention this again, but the White House at the time of Trump's presidency, toward the end of his presidency, posted on the intelligence site that they had information, pretty much information regarding like a potential lab leak or something like that. Now, three researchers from China Wuhan Institute of Virology became sick enough on November 2019 that they sought hospital care. According to a previously undisclosed U.S. intelligence report that could add weight to a growing cause for a fuller probe of whether the COVID-19 virus may have escaped from the laboratory. The details of the reporting go beyond the State Department fact sheet issued during the final days of the Trump administration, which said that several researchers at the lab, a center for the study of coronavirus and other pathogens, became sick in autumn 2019 with symptoms consistent with both COVID-19 and common seasonal illnesses. Now, the disclosure of the numbers of researchers, the timing of their illnesses, and their hospital visits come on the eve of a meeting of the World Health Organization's decision-making body, which was expected to discuss the next phase of an investigation into COVID-19's origins. Virologists argued that Wade, with his connections and research ability, could have taken the time out to properly research the lab leak theory and put an end to the story, yet he chose to rerun the story, causing people to circulate this falsehood even further. Why? Because we have absolutely no evidence of a potential lab leak, only he say, she say, coming from people sitting on laptops that wasn't a part of the independent study put together by the World Health Organization. So who in their World Health Organization article concludes? And we will deal with the conclusion. You're going to see something that was mentioned in Littenberg's article in the first slide from WHO. So it says, when and where these two sublineages diverge remains unclear. And these analyses indicate the origins of SARS-CoV-2 are not yet fully understood. Among the sequences analyzed here, the first available sequence for lineage A, also referred to as lineage S, is Wuhan. And these viruses share two nucleotide polymorphism, position 8782 in ORF lab and 28144 in ORF8. So you have ORF1, I said lab, but it's ORF1 and ORF8. With the closest known bat virus, RATG13 and RMYN02. Now, Littenberg only had RATG13. He did not have RMYN02. So those two lineages, okay? Now, different nucleotides are present at those sites in the viruses assigned to lineage B, also referred to as lineage L, of which Wuhan GenBank accessions number MN908947 sampled on the 26th of December of 2019 is an early representative. Now, evolutionary analysis on 20 and 30 have suggested that the lineage A sequence might represent the ancestral form and lineage B might be the derived form. Hence, although viruses from lineage B happen to have been sequenced and published first, according to Robot, it is likely, based on current data, that the most recent common ancestor of SARS-CoV-2 phylogeny shares the same genome sequence as the earlier lineage A sequence. All right. Now, however, the issue of different early lineages has been widely discussed, but there is no consensus on the question of which viruses are older, as evidence and discussion in writing following the paper published by Foster. Now, an explosive outbreak began in Wuhan in December 2019. Only more severe cases with contact with the healthcare system were recognized. Other milder asymptomatic cases will have been occurring at the same time as the recognized case, but no information is currently available on these milder cases that could add to the epidemiological picture of the early outbreak. Now, many of the early cases were associated with the Wuhan, but the Hunan, that's where it's at, market. But a similar number of cases were associated with other markets and some were not associated with any markets. I'm going to say that again. Some cases were associated with the market, some cases were not. Transmission within the wider community in December could account for cases not associated with the market, which together with the presence of early cases not associated, with that market could suggest that the Hunan market was not the original source of the outbreak. All right, so in short, they had some people agree that the market could not be the original source. Now, milder cases that were not identified, however, could provide the link between the market and early cases without an apparent link to the market. No firm conclusion, therefore, about the role of the market can be drawn because they had cases that occurred in the market and cases that did not. So we just can't put it on the market. All right, so we bullet pointed. Now, this says COVs that are phylogenetically related to SARS-CoV-2 were identified in different animals from different countries, including bats and custom-sized trafficked Malian pangolins. They give us the sample size, which was 1,000 bats in Hubei province. However, has been conducted by none were positive for viruses close to SARS-CoV-2. Sampling of wildlife across China has been conducted, but no samples were positive for SARS-CoV-2. You had the Hunan market had evidence of extensive sale of frozen products, which were fresh fish, aquatic animals and products, livestock meat, and limited farm wildlife products. All the product samples retrieved during the outbreak investigation tested negative for SARS-CoV-2 nucleic acid. SARS-CoV-2 can persist in conditions found in frozen food packaging and cold chain products. Index cases in recent outbreaks in China have been linked to the imported cold chain. These indicates a possibility of transmission of SARS-CoV-2 through frozen food products. The supply chains to the markets in Wuhan include cold chain products, including the seafood, aquatic products, vegetables, animal products, farm wildlife products, from several provinces in China and 20 other countries. Suppliers included countries and regions where SARS-CoV-2, NAT, and serum tested positive before the outbreak of SARS-CoV-2. Countries where cold chain imported products were sourced, provinces where domestic wildlife farms were sourced, and where the relatives of SARS-CoV-2 are found in bats and pangolins. You're going to hear that again. There is evidence that some domestic wildlife species sold in the Hunan market are susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 and SARS-CoV, but none of the animal products sampled in the market tested positive. Apart from the frozen farm wildlife products, cold chain products in Hunan market were not tested specifically in early 2020. These findings do, however, raise the possibility for different potential pathways of introduction, stressing the need for careful traceback of these supply chains and sample testings. Preliminary sampling and testings at other markets in Wuhan upstream supplies to Hunan market taken during 2020 did not reveal evidence of SARS-CoV-2. All right, circulating in animals. Evidence was not found of the presence of SARS-CoV-2 among animal products in the Hunan market and upstream supplies. So when they were backtracking and tracing, they were ruling out certain areas. Now, environmental samplings in the Hunan market demonstrated a widespread contamination of surfaces with SARS-CoV-2 compatible with the virus shedding from infected people in the market at the time of December 2019. However, through extensive testing of animal products in the market, no evidence of animal infection was found. One environmental sample collected on January 22nd, a second market tested positive, implying the environmental contamination from the patients in the communities. So the people were infected in the areas. And then point number 6 is of 923 environmental samples in the Hunan market, 73 were positive. 44 of the positives were from stalls of 21 vendors dealing in the following products: aquatic animals and products, cold chain products, poultry meat, seafood products, livestock 109 meat, vegetable products, and farmed wildlife meat. Sampling and testing of 38 of 515 livestock and poultry samples, 35,515 livestock and poultry samples of 41,696 wild animal samples from 31 provinces in China during 2018 and 2020 resulted in no positive SARS-CoV-2 antibody and nucleic acid tests. No evidence was found of circulation of SARS-CoV-2 among domestic livestock, poultry, and wild animals before and after SARS-CoV-2 outbreak in China. So what does the science say? On the origins and evolution of SARS-CoV-2, molecular evolutionary analysis of the SARS-CoV-2 reference genome indicated that SARS-CoV-2 originated from virus reservoirs in non-human mammals, such as bats, through recombination and purifying selection. These observations suggest that transmission events of coronavirus between mammals, including humans, can occur, and that coronavirus genomes can accumulate new variants via recombination between divergent strands residing in different host species. The COVID-19 pandemic has facilitated scientific communication and data sharing in the public domain, enabling scientists to trace recombination and transmission events occurring in the SARS-CoV-2 population in real time. The current pandemic, rapid accumulation of data, and explosive scientific analysis provide ample opportunities to develop gold standard science-guided policies for the design and implementation of epidemiological practices to prevent future outbreaks. Journal of Nature. Newly sequenced SARB, look at the name, SARB coronaviruses from bats captured in Cambodia, Thailand, and Japan possess different combinations of spike motifs in the RBD and the S1-S2 junction that were first described in SARS-CoV-2. These observations are consistent with the natural origin of SARS-CoV-2 and strongly inconsistent with a laboratory origin. Studies of coronavirus diversity in bats and other species must continue. That's from a virological site. New data compiled by WHO team regarding the presence of distinct lineages of SARS-CoV-2 in different Wuhan wildlife markets are inconsistent with a laboratory-based origin of SARS-CoV-2. No data or other evidence has emerged in support of the lab leak theory. In contrast, the WHO report significantly adds to the large volume of the epidemiological and genomic data that support emergence of SARS-CoV-2 from a zoonotic reservoir, either wildlife or farmed animals. Here's an image from the article, and we're going to actually hear from the scientists who published the last article that I just read, that speaks to, discounting the lab leak theory and providing us with evidence of the reservoir of two potential reservoirs in the instance of SARS-CoV-2. And here you see the divergence of the two strands of pangolin coronaviruses, or two independent spillovers. And they're showing us this in this article 1.
Why are we talking about escaping a lab? I don't know. We talked about it for the past year, and now it's back. People write articles. One came out in the Wall Street Journal the other day. Nicholas Wade wrote an article. That's what they do for a living. They write articles, and so you go through more cycles. But there's no data on a lab leak. If there were, please bring it forward.
So basically what you're saying is we need to recycle stories because there's not enough news otherwise to fill our newspapers?
Yeah, well, there are no more newspapers, but there are websites.
Well, whatever. And actually there are newspapers. I see them on the train. But so is that what I should take away from this? Is that when it's slow news? I
think that we're in a slow news cycle and they had to come up with something. Yeah, the Wall Street Journal article was just a rehash of what went on a year ago.
Okay, so let's get it straight. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict the hijacking of a plane, quote unquote, of a plane in Belarus, so that some journalist was like arrested or something. I don't have all the details right, but there's some problem there. So, and the amount of death in India and Africa and various other places. We have nothing else to discuss. But whether or not this was a lab accident. Really? That's kind of pathetic.
Amy, what are your thoughts on Fauci's comments that he's not convinced this did not originate in the lab?
Let's go to the next question.
This is awful, Martina. It's awful. He should not have said that. There's no evidence. There's no good evidence that it came from a lab.
As I said, let's go to the next question because we're just going to impugn ourselves. This is not, I take the fifth. My cousin said this too today.
I don't know. Well, there's no evidence. I don't know why we have to say it came from a lab when there's no evidence. Anyway, listen to the TWIV 760.
Drops tonight at midnight.
Drops at midnight.
Is it edited?
Edited, posted just before I came on here. I finished it. Yeah.
Wow.
One in 500,000 getting breakthrough disease when vaccinated. Is that what Daniel said?
Stuff like, Kathy, that link that you found, or I first became aware of because you sent it to me, of the debunking of the codon in the furin site thing. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, because I've had several emails from people saying, what about this? What about this? And that first surfaced in that Nicholas Wade article. Okay.
What about the furin cleavage site?
And
that too.
Even if he doesn't understand the science, Nicholas Wade could have, if he was responsible, really looked into that and find out, is there really anything to this? And he would have found out, no, there's nothing to it. But it doesn't help his story. Okay?
He didn't bother. He thought he understood it. A year ago, this was debunked with the codon business. A year ago, he didn't bother to look it up. And that's what they all do. They don't bother to look up the science, and they think they know. And then what kills me is my colleagues, scientists, send me emails saying, this guy sounds like he's right. And I'm like, what, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's misstatements of fact in the Wade article. For instance, he talks about somebody sending in a letter to Nature Communications, and or Nature Medicine, and that's like an opinion. No, when you look on the Nature site, letters are short reports of original research focused on an outstanding finding. They're not opinion. They're two different. So as soon as I hit factual mistakes like that, and then, saying that there's no other beta coronavirus that has this furin cleavage site. And that's not true.
Nope.
And there's also this repeated reference to the State Department memo that was left behind on the 15th of January, 5 days before the inauguration, that, I'm sorry, was a blatant attempt to leave behind all of this innuendo and rumor fingering China as some sort of evildoer in the origins of the virus that, by the way, was taken down on the day of the inauguration. And that State Department memo is just atrocious, absolutely atrocious, but it won't go away. Even if it's taken down, it won't go away. And people keep coming back to it. It drives me nuts.
Didn't we go through that and debunk it point by point?
Yes. Yes, we did.
We did. There's nothing there. There's absolutely
nothing there. And not only that, but a lot of the stuff in that memo, we've gone through over time as this has evolved. For example, the State Department's inspection of the Wuhan lab that was held up by Pompeo as being a big deal, that when you actually look into it is nothing, if anything, laudatory of the lab. Drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Vincent. Journalists out there listening to this, for God's sake, be careful, because we need to know where this actually came from. All right? Don't mess it up.
What gets me is that we went through this a year ago, folks. And in this Wall Street Journal article that just came out, they're rehashing the same stuff we went over a year ago. It's like, what, there's not enough news these days? You got to bring this up. There's nothing new. I don't get it. But yeah, I think their point was that if you distract us, we're not going to find out the actual origin, which is really important.
Well, I was also interested in I appreciated your question at the end, Vincent, of are you going to get the answer? Okay. And there seemed to be some variation.
By the way, this conversation took place after they interviewed the 3 people that were a part of the independent study regarding who. That's why you see it says 12760, the origins of, with Peter Daszak, Thea Coulson, Fisher, Marion Koopsman. Now, I meant to say this earlier, but every conclusion was agreed upon by the team. This was a team conclusion. This was not one person's decision. And that which I am speaking to would be the WHO document that was referred to when I was reading what they were concluding on. That was agreed upon by a panel of independent researchers that went to China, that was involved in the investigation, directly, indirectly, and they got what they asked for from China at that time.
Perspective on that,
yes,
okay,
yes.
From the definitely yes to the we're going to get close. The Ebola thing actually is a very good example because.
Maybe you should elaborate a little bit what you mean by that.
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have the smoking gun with Ebola, right?
No, we don't have good evidence. No,
there's the best evidence says that it may have come from bats.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's about the best you can say.
A lot of conditionals in that.
Yeah, and yeah.
And so when we talked to Tom Kizak in Galveston, we asked him, will we find it? And he said, probably not. It's too hard to find a bat with infectious virus in it. We don't have that. And he said, it probably is not going to happen. I think he said, we've got about as best as we're going to do.
But it really emphasizes the need for this continued, not just trying to sort this out, but the sort of One Health surveillance. And trying to understand what's out there, and also the public health angle of it, of trying to understand when there is spillover potential. I'm interested in, I think there are some conspiracy-minded people out there who will say that the Chinese immediate closing and washing down, sterilizing the Wuhan market was an attempt to conceal some problem. No, it was exactly the right thing to do. Yeah. That's what you do when you think there might be a problem.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he said that. That was just great. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
to us. And so the point I'm going to make is that those opening.
All right, so the gentleman is talking right now, Robert Gary. Robert Gary is the author of the 2 virology articles that were read toward the end, pertaining to the 2 lineage origin. And watch him explain this very carefully.
Cancer are also present in other S1, S2 junction sites in coronaviruses that either have the furin site or they don't have it. A lot of coronaviruses put Olin glycans right in that one particular location near the S1, S2 junction. So, going back to our hypothetical virologist, the one that, is better than
anybody else I know, and probably anybody else that you know, that has had the insight to design this furin cleavage site, they would have had to know first, let's put a proline there. Let's design it so that we have, olein glycan, so it gets regulated in the most optimal way when it gets into an animal. And I just don't think anybody has that insight.
So the other comment that's made about the furin cleavage site, if I understand it correctly, is that the actual codon usage in the site is somehow suspicious. Can you comment on that?
Sure. I'll make two comments about that. The other thing that an experienced virologist would not do is probably put that insertion out of frame. Okay, so it's not, you put 12 nucleotides in, perhaps, maybe, but you wouldn't put them out of frame. So it's actually out of frame. And Bill Gallagher, one of my longtime colleagues, pointed that out to me first. It's out of frame. So why would you do that into the lab? I mean, that, the worst postdoc you ever had. And the other thing is about the codon usage. Now, some people have pointed that out. There's some papers there that says the CGG is unusual. I mean, it's unusual, I guess, if you're a bat, because that codon doesn't get used very often in bats. But it's actually one of the more common codons in humans and other species. So nothing unusual about CGG. It's just I think just a gish gallop of bad information that's been thrown out there. There's nothing unusual about having two CGG codons after each other.
So it actually takes a lot of work to see that. I mean, when you look at the sequence and you see this thing that stands out, obviously the human eye is drawn to that. You say, oh, that's an insertion. But then when you look at it in the broader landscape of coronaviruses, including coronaviruses that are known to infect humans, you see, and knowing that coronaviruses recombine like crazy as we do, this actually is pretty easy to perceive happening through the natural route. I mean,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, what did you just say, Alan, again? Remind me, you were talking about the insertion.
Recombination and insertion, and how the insertion jumps out at you initially when you look at it.
Yes. So when you first, in fact, your friend Bill Gallagher wrote about this a year ago on Virological. He said, if you look at the protein sequence, it looks like it's stuck in. But if you look at the RNA of RATG and SARS-CoV-2, it's not just stuck in. It's completely consistent, right? And he said, RNA don't lie.
That's right.
All right. So in the history of viruses, we have learned at some point viruses cross over from non-human to human by animals we encounter or interact with in some instances. And as the world continues to grow and populate the planet, we will encounter more viruses in the near future. But based on the data presented in summary, we can conclude that the lab leak theory does not have substantial weight at this time. And gain of function, which is an argument many use, would need a source virus that could replicate exactly like SARS-CoV-2 and be just as infectious. Remember, in a previous lecture, we talked about alpha, beta, gamma, and delta coronaviruses. Revisit that lecture. That is something gain of function conspiracists do not understand. However, there's absolutely no supporting evidence of that when the viruses are constantly analyzed and new variants emerge in certain parts of the world. Also, most of the conspiracy stuff that was Trump administration led allowed the media to run wild with assumptions and not data. Not one journalist or media outlet that pushed the lab leak theory presented hard evidence to argue with. The claim of the three researchers who had gotten sick failed to mention the contraction site. I'm going to say it again. The claim of the three researchers who had gotten sick, they failed to mention the contraction site. What started from a June 2020 article written last year has resurfaced with a different name, yet the same result as the last, inconclusive and a waste of time. Sources. More sources. The family, the brands. Now, bear with me just a second. I am going to give you some additional information here because this was something that I could have included, but I didn't include it. I wanted to use it as a talking point at some point if Unc was on the panel. But of course, Unc is probably still talking on Dagger Squad, and I don't know if he is, if he is not. I mean, people that have been bouncing back and forth may know, but I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get into it now. So I'm going to expand my screen, reshare my screen, and we're gonna walk through a little bit of this article here. And we're gonna go through it. All right. So this is the land use change and livestock revolution increase the risk of zoonotic coronavirus transmission from rhinolipid bats. Okay. This article published on the 31st of May. Now, the abstract states, right, the extent to which humans facilitate zoonotic transmission of infectious diseases is unclear. Human encroachment into wildlife habitats as a consequence of expanding urbanization, cropland area, and intensive animal farming is hypothesized to favor the emergence of zoonotic diseases. Here we analyze comprehensive, high-resolution data set on forest cover, cropland distribution, livestock density, human population, human settlements, bat species, distribution and land use changes in regions populated by Asian horseshoe bats, the species that most commonly carry severe acute respiratory syndrome related to what? Coronaviruses. We identify areas at risk of SARS-related coronavirus outbreaks, showing that areas in China populated by horseshoe bats exhibit higher forest fragmentations and concentrations of livestock and animals that other countries. Now, our findings indicate that human livestock-wildlife interactions in China may form hotspots with the potential to increase SARS-related coronavirus transmission from animals to humans. Now, there's a couple of key points here. Then I'm gonna bounce to the results. All right. Now, emerging infectious diseases frequently originate from pathogen spillovers from wildlife to humans. Contributing factors include forest fragmentation, habitat destruction, agriculture expansion, concentrated livestock production, and human penetration into wildlife habitats. However, a quantitative analysis of the nexus between ongoing land use changes and the emergence of a new zoonotic disease is still missing. Genomic sequencing of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, has shown that the virus is closely related to a strand present in horseshoe bats. I'm gonna say that one more time. Genomic sequencing of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, has shown that the virus is closely related, 96%, to a strand present in horseshoe bats. But it is still unclear whether the spillover of SARS-CoV-2 occurred directly from bats to humans or through an intermediate species. That is the clue. Okay? How did this spill over from these bats to humans? Right? So what we're doing right now is we are further dismissing the lab leak theory or claim made with no significant evidence. We're dealing with horseshoe bats that are closely related to SARS-CoV-2 by 96%. If you took a blood test with your father right now, the chances of it being 96 to 99 or 100% is there. Same similarity. There's a 4% chance he ain't the father. Like, really? Come on. Now, for example, a strain of coronavirus very similar to SARS-CoV-2 was detected in Malayan pangolins. Malayan pangolins detected, all right? Now, a wild mammal that is frequently illegally smuggled from Southeast Asia into China and sold in markets. Regardless of the specific pathway, the pathogen flow of emergent zoonotic disease to humans is the result of human interactions with wildlife. We argue that the increasing incidence of emergent disease outbreaks is the result of a similar set of drivers able to change the distance and contact rates between wildlife and humans, as well as human-human interaction. Now we continue to shift toward population growth, urbanization, increasing influences in middle-income countries, and that associated with dietary shifts, including an increase in demand for animal products, are driving agriculture expansion and changes in animal husbandry, often at the expense of natural ecosystem. Intensive livestock productions keeps a large number of animals often immune suppressed with low genetic diversity and in poor conditions in close proximity to one another, making them vulnerable to the emergence and spread of epidemics. Now, let's go to the results. I don't want to draw this all the way out. I'm just trying to deal with the science, not speculation. Unfortunately, the location of the first infection events of SARS-CoV-2 in humans is not known. Therefore, we performed our local analysis at the horseshoe bat locations in China. And within the horseshoe bat distributions in both the larger region, including Southeast and Southeast Asia, and additionally Western Europe and North Africa, and then in China. Within these distributions, we generated 10,000 random sample points. Within a 30-kilometer from every random sampling point, we calculated livestock density, forecast cover and fragmentation, cropland cover, population density, and fractional cover of human settlements. Hotspots were calculated using the GTIS.org algorithm to show where these areas with high or low values of land use attributed clusters. You have Exhibit A, B, C, D. All right. In the blue spot, cold spot, 90% confidence. So you had blue here. You had some blue here. Over here, you got livestock in very dark areas, croplands in pinkish looking colors, settlements in the blue. You got some patch lands and you got all of that. So you're seeing there, you got bat locations, yellow. You really can't see them, but let's see if this is better. My bad. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Yep, there we go. So in the bat locations, you got bat locations, heavy, thick over here. Super dumb thick over here, all right? You got your, we go over here and we look, spread it out a little bit more. You got bat locations, randomized points in China, randomized points outside China, and substantial habitats. You got a lot going on over here. All right. Now, and then you have a distribution chart, and we really ain't got to go through all of that. But within the large region analysis, China exhibits a relatively high concentration of livestock production and horseshoe bat distribution. Indeed, China is a hotspot of livestock density within this region, with statistical significance higher concentrations of chickens, ducks, pigs, goats, and cattle that exist outside. Now, within that radius from observed bat locations, the density of chicken, ducks, bats, goats, cattle was again significantly greater than randomly selected locations outside China. Conversely, the sheep density is lower in China, although sheep density was low overall as it was with other remnants. Now, the density of chicken, goats, pigs, goats, and cattle surroundings, the points where the bats were recorded and at a randomly selected locations in China within a suitability region were not significantly different indicating that these random locations have livestock densities that are representative of the areas of which the actual presence of the horseshoe bats has been documented. Now, forest cover and fragmentations have been related to the virus outbreak from wildlife, including bats, from other zoonotic diseases such as Ebola virus diseases. China exhibits average lower forest and cover and cropland densities and greater forest fragmentations than other regions. Analysis. Now, the average forest cover and forest fragmentation in the surroundings of the random points selected in China and other regions showed these differences were statistically significant. Likewise, statistically significant differences, that is lower average cover and higher average fragmentation, are found between the points of actual observation of horseshoe bats and randomly selected locations in regions outside China within the distribution of those bats. China also exhibited high levels of human presence in horseshoe bat distribution, as evidenced by population density in the fractions of landscape covered by villages, towns, and other human settlements. Indeed, the region of China suitable for horseshoe bats coincides with hotspots of human settlements. Collectively, these results demonstrated that China exhibits stronger signs of human encroachment, livestock density, and forest disturbance of SARS Cov hosting horseshoe bat distributions than other regions. In China, regions close to the forest fragments are more densely used for livestock production than human settlements and consequently exhibit lower forest and croplands cover, thereby favoring the contact between wildlife and humans either directly or through an intermediate animal such as livestock. The fact that China is a global hotspot in the concurrence of these three factors, fragmentations, livestock densities, and human settlements, is highlighted by the multivariate hotspot analysis. These three attributes account for the bat habitat, livestock and human presence, which are major factors contributing to the spillover of zoonotic infectious diseases. Interestingly, we find that China is a global hotspot of simultaneous high forest fragmentation, livestock density, and human settlement. Now, the other major global hotspots outside China are found in Java, Bhutan, and East Nepal, North Bangladesh, and the Kerala, India, and Northeast India, of which the Bangladeshi and the Northeast Indian regions are known for past outbreaks of Nipah virus, another bat-related zoonotic disease. Now, this is a long result, right? But the point of the matter is this. The horseshoe bat is 96% related. Horseshoe bats are all over that place. The testing results from those things. Okay? So I'm going to give it to you like this. Likewise, the transition region between China's hotspots and Indochina's cold spots and the region surrounding the hotspot of Thailand could turn into hotspots for SARS-CoV spillover as a result of increasing presence of livestock of humans, respectively. These results point both to regions of the world currently suitable for SARS-CoV spillover from wildlife to humans, as well as those at risk of becoming prone to spillover as a result of trajectories of land use change and human penetration. Y'all can have fun with this. Give me one more second. All right, so again, the source, right, Kofi? Because I see you still talking. The source is the bat. I don't understand how you can't understand that. We just slowed it down for you, and we just told you the horseshoe bat. But not just that, we talked about two reservoirs, right? We brought up the Cambodian bats in the presentation, and we talked about other bats in other areas. Like we are finding the sequencing. Ain't nobody calling you stupid. Come on, man. You know better than that. Yes, closest source. And that's it. At the end of the day, it refutes the lab leak. There's no, like, there's too much science, right? You don't need 100% match, bro. You don't need 100% match. If you have a 96% match, go take a DNA test with your child. If you got kids, go take a DNA test and come back and tell us the results. Show us if your results are 100%. I bet you your DNA, I bet you your tests are not 100%. There's going to be a percentage base in that's going to not be 100%, bro. You're not going to get 100% of anything. The closest you got right now is a 96% match. From West Africa, crazy. But nah, I mean, I feel what you're trying to say. He said someone would disown their kids because it's only 96%. Get out of child support, boy. You're crazy. But no. In all realness and fairness, you're not what you want. What you want the scientists to do is you want the scientists to go get you the bat and say, here's the bat right here. Right? It's this specific bat right here. Here's the bat reservoir. But they're telling you right now that the increased evidence is mounting. There you go, Nahisi. That's what there you go. The 4% mutation, what makes it able for humans to contract it. Bam. Thank you. I knew Nahisi was listening. He always somewhere sneaking around. And as soon as I can't think of something, he pop it up. But the backbone of the virus has been checked. There's been no tampering with it. Yep. Nahisi read the thing in full. So that Kofi, that's why I'm saying the evidence, the strongest evidence that we have is dealing with the bats, right? We've dealt with the bats, and we're at this point now where we're looking what we should be looking for right now is we should be honing in on the pangolin, or we should be honing in on the bat to a host, and then the humans, like that part, or is it directly bat to humans? You see what I'm saying? And yeah, nah. But I wouldn't say he wasn't paying attention. He just, he want 100%. He's not going to get 100%. Okay, so yeah, let me deal with that, Kofi, because I think you're under the impression, right, that people are being. You said people are being religious. You're absolutely incorrect. The scientists are telling you to go get me the evidence that would support another side of it. That's what the virologists are saying, not just Vincent Racconelli. The field of virology is telling me, you, and the rest of the world, go get me the evidence to support your theory, or your hypothesis. You see what I'm saying? I'm asking, let me slow it down. I'm asking Kofi, if you feel that passionate about rejecting the evidence that does say what it says, then go get the evidence that supports your position. Go get that. There's none. The lab leak theory, where is the evidence? The gain of function theory, go get the evidence. I just told you in the presentation what's required for the gain of function claim to work. No, I'm saying generally because you fighting it, but you're not fighting it. You see what I'm saying? I ain't, arguing or nothing. We cool. But I'm saying the point is that we would need the data. The strongest data that we have, bro, is the evidence that we provided in the presentation, the evidence that just dropped out of Nature a few days ago, literally 3 days ago. That's the evidence that we have, because that's the evidence that the scientific community has put forth. The scientific community hasn't put any strength. Now, what scientists are saying to me, you, and everybody else is that until further science comes forth that refutes the science or the data that we have, we're not listening to it. It's speculation, assumption, and it's coming from places and people that don't study science. At the end of the day, bro, this is a scientific conversation. And in order for you to have any type of entry into the scientific conversation, you have to have refutable, testable, plausible data. You have to interject that data into the conversation for it to be worth paid attention to. Until it is paid attention to, it's a waste of our time, because at the end of the day, when we study viruses, we know how viruses emerge in the population. So you don't have to say something is a 100%, right? Like we're sitting here and we're saying this is it and that's that. That's not how science works. How science works is, until you can show and prove this is the best data that we got. We're testing the data that we have over and over, and we're hitting on it. So much so that 96% comes out. So therefore, you got to go back now, and you got to not you specifically, but someone that disagrees with the science has to go back and try to falsify the evidence. So now, because of the zoonotic spillover, you got to go back and refute that and say, nah, that's not a zoonotic spillover. So all I'm saying is we need scientific evidence to refute the evidence that we do have. The evidence that we do have is stronger than a claim made across the world by people who aren't even in the scientific field. They're journalists. Spine thing, you got to give me more than that. I need a little bit more. See, you think that I'm just ruling out any other. That's what I'm saying. I'm sticking to the science until more science comes. I'm not considering any other hypothesis, because it's just somebody's guess. But the hypothesis isn't coming from scientists. It's being pushed by journalists and media. The media, those news sites that are pushing an alternative, right? Because you brought up Fauci, I think, on Garfield show, but on 5/26, during his White House press release, he stuck to the guns and stated that he's still sticking to the fact that it was a natural occurrence. He said that. If you go look at when they broke down his emails, in his emails that just released, in his emails, it's the same thing. He's standing on the natural cause. It's hard for some people to accept the fact that nature doesn't care. Yep, that's very true. How it's shown to not be tampered with, they have a method that can leave no trace, which is not good ethics. They would have to demonstrate that, Kofi. I'm not going with that. Whoever said that, I'm not going, people can say things all the time, but until it's demonstrated, I can't agree with that at all. Yeah, he has to say, Kofi, he has to say he's not ruling out anything, right? And then you seen virologists come for him and say in that conversation that he had that he shouldn't have never said what he said in that conversation, knowing what he knows. But he said it, and it was a bad choice of words. But he stuck to the natural origins. I'm not going back to 2013 to deal with, you see what I'm saying? Now I'm going down a rabbit hole. We dealing with right now in the middle of a pandemic based on the available evidence that we have. We can't go chasing a rabbit hole from 2013. Yeah, Melvin hit it right. Malcolm hit it right on the head. It's just smoking gun talk. Like somebody's looking for something. When you go back and talk about talking points that Republicans are using from 2013 and 2009 and all of these things, that's not relevant today because positions change. Who's to say that information, to get an understanding of the mechanics, you have to. Yeah, but until, like I said, bro, until we see evidence, right? Until we see scientific data, until we have until we have actual data that we can draw upon to come to an honest conclusion to change our course, we're going with the best available data. Science is spoken. At the end of the day, science is spoken. We have more evidence to support that it was not a lab leak than we do for the potential of it being a lab leak, but we're not ruling it out. You see what I'm saying? Like, how does that sound? All the evidence that we have is supportive of, the origins being in a bat and then crossing over from a bat to another animal, then an animal to a human, or potentially a bat directly to humans. But then we're saying, even though we got this evidence over here, we're still going to consider the potential threat of it leaking from a lab because, and I just want to show y'all something. I want to show y'all something real quick because anthrax leaked from a lab. Did y'all know that? Let me, I'm trying to find a wiki page if I can. I think I'm putting it in here wrong. All right. Give me a second, y'all. My search taking me all the way around the world and I ain't trying to go. All right. Boom, boom, boom. You don't have to be a virologist. As long as you study viruses, you can understand virology. By the way, and I'll show you in just a minute though. But which I think y'all should be able to see. Yeah, you should be able to see my screen. So these are a list of laboratory biosecurity incidents. All right, 1903, lab worker became infected with a bacterium. Right here. 1906, Philippines. 1943, the Doralush scrub typhus pathogen. 1971, 1966, smallpox. 71, smallpox. 73, smallpox. They giving you the areas there. Of course, one in the United States, the other ones was elsewhere. Nigeria. Report compiling the number of laboratory acquired viral infections between 63 and 77, the Virus Research Laboratory in Ibadan. You got Ebola in the UK, H1N1 in the Soviet Union and China, smallpox again, foot and mouth disease. Wow. Yep. Released to animals outside the center. Anthrax, Soviet Union. The Marburg virus, Soviet Union. Soviet Union again. West Nile. And then you have the signature SARS coming through 03 to 04. Singapore, Taiwan, and China. And the incidents right there. You got Ebola in Russia. Foot and mouth in the United States in 04. Foot and mouth in the UK. Look at this run right here. All United States. H5N1, H1N1, H5N1, anthrax, smallpox. 2014. United States. Burkholder, what is that? Mali. Yep. Sierra Leone, Ebola. Coming all the way down. Brucellosis in China, 2019. Russia had something. Ebola, Hungary, 2018. Right? But I think what it is that people have a misconception, like when you hear lab leak, you assume, right? You hear lab leak like it was deliberate, like they were in there doing something. This is what's giving gain of function argument legs. But if you don't understand viruses, you can't fully comprehend that in order for gain of function to work. And in this instance, scientists are arguing that had the United States been using gain of function research, that they would have been able to be better prepared for the pandemic. Literally, you have scientists that are arguing that if they were able to use gain of function, that they would be able to get, better prepared. They would have had us better prepared. So real quick, give me 1 second. Let me step away real fast. Give me 1 second. All right, so Kofi, if you paying attention, bro. Let me show you something real quick. All right, you see this? Principles of Virology. Thick book. 579 pages right here. That's volume 1. This is volume 2. Pathogenesis and Control. See it right there? There's 2 books right there. Right? When you researching and you studying and stuff like that, right? Very early in this book, this tell you the importance of viruses. This helps set your foundation. This helps you level up and do what you need to do in order to fully understand. not only just watching YouTube videos or reading scientific articles and things of that nature. I mean, we all can read an article, but can we comprehend what we're reading, and can we disseminate the information and draw our own conclusion based on the data, right? And in order to understand that data, we have to slow things down and try to make it make sense to us, because we learn different. Everybody learns differently, right? So you start here for a reason, right? Like I told you, this talks about viruses, and it even quizzes you. This is some real dope stuff in this book. These books are about $150 or whatever, something like that. You can get them on Amazon. But this prepares you for conversations. It helps you understand viruses. Like for the last couple of years, man, since the first show on the Dagger Squad, like before the pandemic, that April 2019 or 28, whenever we was doing it, you know, we've been fighting to fully understand not only vaccines, but viruses. So that's where we are. You compare information. Okay, I get it, but you aren't even aware of the mechanics within. Sure, if I asked about a dismiss a lecture where it's explained by the leading biologists. I think Kofi, I think you're wrong. I know you're having a conversation with somebody else, but the virologist dismissed the article written by a journalist because it wasn't based on research and them understanding how viruses work. They could quickly identify the errors in the article, and they didn't do it as individuals. They did it as a overall team. You have a team of virologists that tackle different perspectives of the article, which allow them to focus on the bullet points that they can address quickly. Like, for instance, when we, what a book at? This is how you kill all that, right? This is proof positive that teams win, Kofi. I don't know how much you know about the SESU, right? But what did the SESU do? The SESU Mani Metal Nature Crew. What did they do? I'm saying they, like I'm not a part of it, but what did we do as a team? Where's my book at? Do you know what we did? If not, it's okay. I can explain it to you. But I'm just trying to find my book somewhere. I don't know where it's at. Might be downstairs. I got too many books. Anyway, so the SESU, what we did was we broke down Walter Williams' work, right? And that's what some of this writing ability comes from for me, is that, you know, and I give it up to him, Sebu Ujau has this, says, this method of dealing with claims that he's always dealt with. And when dealing with these claims specifically, I really don't know what my book is. He says you have to address them point for point. So what we did as a team, right, is that we all had an area of focus to deal with some of these points. So we went and collected data as a team, but everybody had a different research question to deal with. Why would we assign each other a different research question? Well, for one, it speeds up the research process. Oh, it's behind here. Okay, I get it. And two, it allows us to cover more ground quicker. And once we do those things, you know, then we could meet back up. We can discuss what we found, and we can move the research further because we're a team. It's like 9 of us. And that allowed us to do certain things. So when the journalist published an article, right? When they published their article and put that information out, you don't think these virologists didn't get together before even coming on a live stream to talk about it and discuss what they needed to discuss? Vincent Racconelli is an expert in the field. He doesn't play games. He immediately sees in the first paragraph some errors. What's the lady name, man? Amy was one of them, but the older lady, I can't think of her name right now. She addressed some grammatical errors and then some other things that she'd known based on her expertise. We're dealing with experts, right? We're not appealing to authority here, but we're dealing with experts. Why? Because we can go get the work and we can analyze and critique it for ourselves. But when you know like which research model people are using, it, if they're using one, and journalists usually don't use a methodology. They opinion post writers. But the point is that as teams, bro, you're able to cover more ground. So the moral of the story and the summary to end all the speculation is simple. There's more evidence that point toward a bat origin than there does a lab leak theory. As scientists, they're not going to say, I am 100% locked in on this. I'm just going to be dismissive of that until you bring me evidence. Without any evidence, I'm not considering the lab leak. You can. I'm not going to tell you how to feel because at this point, it's emotional, right? You don't want to accept one side, but yet you want to keep the door open for another side. How could you open the door for something that doesn't have any evidence, but then try to be shallow with the amount of evidence? So I don't know if you even, this might be your first time over here, but I haven't did a show yet on scientific evidence. I should have did that show. Because when you're dealing with how strong your evidence is, right? And this slide is in that presentation. This right here, right? This is what we're dealing with. How strong is the scientific evidence? So you want to keep the door open for a lab leak theory? How strong is the evidence for it? I see you and Chavis, y'all going back and forth. That don't mean nothing to me. I don't care about it or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how strong is the evidence for a lab leak theory, bro. Wait, can you answer that for me? I mean, because right now, y'all just going in circles. So I don't like to draw it out. How strong is the evidence for a lab leak theory? Now, what do you consider evidence? Systemic reviews and meta-analysis. That's a gathering and a summarize all relevant studies on a particular topic. Lower chance of bias. Systemic reviews, meta-analysis. This is the strongest available evidence. So what evidence do you have under systemic reviews and meta-analysis? None. Okay, all right, let's move on. What about randomized controlled trials, RCTs? Identifying a population to study. Split into random groups and made measurable effects. One group exposed, one group not exposed. How about that? Okay, don't have it. Okay. What about observational research? Scientists use these studies to identify correlations and develop hypotheses for further testing, like cohort studies. What about case control studies? What about case series? Right? Don't forget that correlation does not mean causation, and remember to communicate absolute risk. Okay. What about animal and cell studies for lab leak theory? Do we have that? No, we don't. Okay. So we don't know the effects on humans and animals, not always the same. Isolated cells in laboratories behave differently than cells in the body. I mean, okay, all right. So, okay, what do we have any expert opinions and anecdotes, like a single person experience of an opinion that does not provide an objective picture? And this evidence is too weak to draw a conclusion, but do we have that? Do we have the evidence of expert? Are the experts saying that it leaked from a lab? No, they're saying they're keeping the door open. They're saying they're not closing the door on that potentially. Okay, so what about now let's change the course, right? Because I just presented information, and let's change the course and let's say, what do we have for what I presented? We have systemic reviews and meta-analysis. We have observational research. We got animal and cell studies. We don't have randomized control trials because we're talking about the origins, right, of SARS-CoV-2. And we also have expert opinions, right? We got the experts' opinions, but we also had animal and cell studies, which we supported it. And we have observational research, and we had systemic reviews and meta-analysis from multiple sources, strengthening the evidence for the origins of SARS-CoV-2. So until we have a stronger argument to consider, I'm not considering I'm not wasting my time with the lab leak stuff. It's speculation at this point because there's no substantial amount of evidence or amount of evidence to even consider it being a factor. Until there's evidence, I'm not saying nothing. You can. I'm not telling you what you can't do. I'm just telling you what I'm not going to do. Because this is kind of in the potential, well, it may be in the book. I don't know. I mentioned it in my notes, but this process, right, of what SARS-CoV-2 taught me is how strong is the evidence. If the evidence wasn't strong enough, like we arguing with people on Facebook all day about vaccine science and if the vaccine's working, if the vaccine's doing this, is people doing that, this, that, and the third, all of these things, right? But when it comes down to those arguments, at the end of the day, it's a waste of time if they don't have strong scientific evidence. And if you're the only person mounting a scientific argument to a non-scientific person, they're not going to comprehend how science works and what is required for you to come to an honest conclusion. One article, one opinion, one news clip, that's not enough evidence. It's not going to get us anywhere. We're just going to go over it. We're just going to be running in circles. And until that changes, I mean, we really just wasting our time. But where the hell is this book at? Now. Oh, all right. I got it now. Anyway. So when we wrote the book, right? That's what we did. We addressed it as such. We attacked it a certain way. What that did for me was, that did a couple of things for me personally. what that did for me was, and I'll tell y'all, that helped me put things into perspective on how I wanted to address claims in the conscious community. If I wanted to address claims, if I wanted to write a book, write it a particular way. If I wanted to debunk everything Sonetta Channel has on it, I would know how to do that. If I wanted to argue with Garfield about something, I could argue with Garfield about it, and he can't trap me because I know how to get him to get off his square, because he has to deal with the fact that I'm gonna bring up methodology, and that's something that he respects, is methodology. He doesn't go against methodology. So well, I got books everywhere. I think somebody stole one of my books. Yep, I'm gonna have to ride on somebody about that. You dig? I'm gonna have to ride on somebody about that. Stealing my book. But yeah, man, I'm not going to pretty much, deal with a lot of stuff, but I just want to kind of make it known, man, the need to support excellent fundamental research. Keep or attract the best brains in Europe. This is about Europe science, by the way. Develop knowledge and understand the world around us and find answers to today's and future questions. Pave the way for tomorrow's innovations. I agree with all of that. But this is what you're doing right now, Kof. I'm gonna pick with you. Bad science, bruh. Sensational. You reading them sensationalized headlines. I ain't gonna say you misinterpreting the results, because it ain't none for what you leaving the door open. There's no conflict of interest, so I ain't gonna put that on you. Correlation and causation, speculative language, nah, you ain't doing that. Sample size too small. Yep, this you. They ain't even put a sample out. They just speculating that it's a lab leak. They ain't put no information out supportive of such. So that you ain't reading it in no journals or anything like that. You just the news, and you cherry picking. I gotta mess with you. Don't take it personal. No blind testing used. No control group. You see what I'm saying? Like all of these things, man. The pandemic taught me, and it taught me how to take them more seriously. Because we're arguing with people who don't know how science works. So at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is from that point. Oh, the new book. Well, there's a couple of new books. It's like Trick. There's 3 new books. One of them, I'm dealing with Islam. Another one, I'm dealing with a West African ruler. And then the other one, of course, is about what SARS-CoV-2 taught me. And in that, I'm going to be dealing with, some of the things that I've learned over the course of the pandemic. And I'm going to speak about some tools that I utilize to help me learn more. I'm going to speak to what I learned about, viruses and vaccines and, certain information. I'm I'm leading in a direction to make it like a learn with me type of book in the process. So I might throw some questionnaires in there, something like that I've been prepping for. It's going to deal with some of the conspiracies that I dealt with or have dealt with on social media, because that was a part of the learning curve too, pushing you to learn more and dig deeper on certain things. But, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of that research that was going on trying to debunk those claims was a waste of time, because not really a waste of time, but I'm saying a waste of time because there was not enough supporting evidence for what you were debunking to even deal with it. You know, the reality of it is it was just social media making the topic famous, and social media is good for making things go viral. So the information is controlled by he or she who releases that information to their audience, and then it's regurgitated over and over and over and over to people who have absolutely no understanding of how things work. So you never really get to the bottom of it, because you're arguing with people who are ignorant. Not ignorant as stupid or anything like that, although some people are stupid, but just from not knowing. And that ultimately is a learning, that's a lesson. For me, it was a lesson. You know, refuting information, debunking a lot of the claims about the vaccine, those were lessons for me. They may not be lessons for everybody else, but for me, those were lessons. And they taught me a lot. Taught me a hell of a lot. And of course, I had to invest more money into books. And of course, money that I don't have, because I'm broke now. But, you know, just taking that time out. But I had to create a schedule for myself where I could learn at weird hours of the day. Like I would read when I first get up. Like I would write 2 hours, an hour or 2 hours a day at certain periods. I would research what I'm studying in the moment of the reading. You know, methodology, man. Just, you know, there's gonna be a lot about that. I know I've been like broad, but there's a lot of intricate pieces and parts that go into that. So that's pretty much it on that end. You know, I'm not gonna tell you too much of what's really in it or anything like that. Sute crazy. He said we need to put out a volume where everybody chapter is killing a pseudo claim. Yeah, I feel you on that. See, Sute and myself in Spills of the Mossy Volume 1, that's the first thing that we did was we addressed, you know, claims. Like I dealt with Kemetic Christianity and he dealt with the Hebrew claim in that chapter, even though I know I wrote another chapter, but in that, you know, that's pretty much how that goes. I also found it useful for myself to get, I need to get another updated anthropology book. You know, I got the anthropology book, the Appreciating Human Diversity, because they talk about viruses and the evolution of viruses and stuff like that in those anthropology books as well, because they're dealing with people. I don't think that people respect the information, or what we're doing, or you know what I mean, individually and collectively. I don't think that people respect it like that because they shun it. It's not popular. Like, look, it's like 16 people in here right now. You know, we're talking about the origins of Sars Cov 2, and we only got 16 people in here. We're talking about a serious topic, like something Black people should be aware of and should know. We're not a part of those conversations. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're always listening to certain experts, but if we don't know how to disseminate the information from the experts, then we're just appealing to an expert, and that's no good for us. That means we're really not learning. You know what I'm saying? We should be able to validate we should know how to validate what the experts are talking about. Chad was crazy. He said I better get a shout out. I might shout you out, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I think that since the presentation is over, man, look, the Black Brown Table is live right now, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream. I done went over 30 minutes anyway. But if you're unfamiliar with the Black Brown Table, hold up. I ain't gonna end just yet. Hold up. I gotta do something. Let me do it right now. Let me do it right this second. Yeah, let me do it right now this second. It just hit me. Yeah, it just hit me, man. But Sutek, put the Black Brown Table thing in the chat. Oh yeah, you know, I ain't getting no views. I can't get no views over those people. Ain't no way in hell I'm gonna get a view over them people. They control it, you know. It's sad, but they do control it. But here go the link to where I'm about to go. You know what I'm saying? You got a range, bro. What you talking about? Yeah, play with me. Appreciate that from West Africa. Again, man, look, there's somebody that I do want to shout out, man. That you know what I'm saying? That be rocking with me hard. That's Juan Vasquez, man. That brother, man. From time to time, he be blessing the bro for real on some real life stuff. And I'm appreciative of that, man. And he one of the reasons why I go hard. So, you know, it is what it is at that point. But yeah, I'm finna go over here and support our brothers and sisters over there on the Black and Brown Table. We both put the link in the chat. Let's go over there and support those brothers and sisters over there. Yeah, baby. Black people do love misinformation. Okay, 220, I see you. But yeah, let's go over there and support them. They're having a nice little dialogue. I want to support our brothers and sisters before they even get off the panel over there. So I thank everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. Stay tuned for the next lecture that comes up. I know this one ran over a little bit. Yeah, man, I seen Sugar Free. Sutek crazy, call it Sugar Free. The next one we're gonna deal with scientific evidence, and then I'm gonna come back with some other stuff that I got prepared. Like I said, I got like 6, 7 presentations that are already lined up, ready to fire away. So this allowed me to be able to, you know, continue to write my books and do my little independent research and such. So yeah, man, I'm gonna say Shimon Hotep on that note, and I'll see y'all over there at the Black Brown Table. Peace.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisai Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisai Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisai Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harek Shun Kalfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisai, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harek Shun Kalfunny, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisai. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaitv.com.